Where does South Africa stand in the position of the world right now, with prophecy unfolding all around us and events in the world ramping up to levels not seen before in our lifetimes? So I'm going to share a few details with you, and then you can get a better picture of where we're at. South Africa must carefully navigate its defense policy, warns former Shadow Minister of Defense Cobus Maree, as alignment with NATO adversaries could harm relationships with the West, especially amidst tensions involving Iran, Russia, and China. So that's the warning he gave. The incidents included a visit by the commander of the South African Navy, Vice Admiral Monde Lobese, to Iran, the refusal to allow the export of South African ammunition to Poland, and the docking of a Chinese naval vessel in Cape Town. And let me add, Russian vessels come here all the time too, and we have regular exercises, our Navy, with Russian and naval counterparts together. Details surrounding Vice Admiral Lobese's visit to Iran was reported by the Iranian Khabar news agency earlier this month. During his 5-day stay, Vice Admiral Lobese engaged in discussions with senior Iranian Navy officials, including Admiral Shahram Irani and Sardar Ali Zereza Tangsiri, commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The delegation discussed plans to send South African naval students to the Imam Khomeini University of Marine Science and further ways to expand relations further. So South Africa and Iran. Maree said the ANC's foreign relations policy has historically favored Palestine, Russia, and China and Iran, often ignoring current geopolitical and trade realities. So that's where South Africa is. We had a problem forming a government now recently with our elections, and they had to take on a large group from the opposition who are supposedly going to change where our government's at and going to. But their leader, Steenhuisen is his name, was invited by our President Ramaphosa to take a trip to China when all the African leaders went to China to meet with Xi, because Xi is shoring up his influence in Africa as quickly as possible. Minerals, all sorts of things, land. He's clever. He's thinking long term when the wars are kicking off and everything, and he's got further control. And he took him with there. And when he came back, he said Steenhuisen is now on board with South Africa supporting China's One China policy. So we are now officially against Taiwan standing on their own legs and being a separate entity from China. And we are with China in this whole thing. So when we talk about China circling Taiwan and doing all these things, not a problem from South African perspective, because now everyone's on board with the One China policy. Why? Because China's investing heavily in this country, in mining and all sorts of other activities, and we become more and more indebted to China, to Russia, and we have all of their allies, Iran, that are now actively involved with building relationships. The more anti-Israel we become, the more we attack Israel on the world front, the more we align with the forces of darkness that are also hateful of Israel. And thus anybody seemingly to be standing with Israel or even friendly with Israel, we are busy pushing away as hard as possible without thinking of future consequences. Now I say that as a picture of South Africa, and there's a lot more stories I can tell you and examples I can give you. You know, Russian bombers landing here in South Africa now recently to be present at an air show, those kind of things. So, no, what I want to add to this, because that seems grim, that is our position on the world board of politics and prophecy and end times. But God. We have a large base of born-again, redeemed, blood-bought believers who stand with Israel, who pray for Israel, who support one another, who are actively working on spreading the gospel, who are doing what we can with what we have in the times we're living in to make a difference for God. So we are here, and we are South Africans, and we stand for the right things, the biblical things, the Jesus things. So We pray for our country. We pray for the Lord to help us and stay with us and strengthen us as we navigate these waters to that moment when the Harpazo rapture event comes to collect his bride. God bless. Keep looking up. Shalom.